Hello everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
And due to the current economic recession, we have no chairs.
None whatsoever, so we have to park our posteriors on the floor in front of a Punisher poster.
No, actually, we decided, because this topic is going to be slightly more serious than other things we've done in the past, that we'd be a little more informal today, kind of sit down like we're just chatting with you, our buddies, and kind of, sit back, relax a little bit, and, a little more laid back, and talk about something a little, little more down to earth, a little more serious. Vince, this was your idea. What are we talking about?
We're talking about representation of teenagers in film and media, and why is it that they always seem to be angsty, and what ramifications does that really have on the audience and on storytelling?
Yeah. Do the teenagers that we see on television and in movies very often, there's certainly, going to be exceptions to this, but by and large, the ones that we see, are they too stereotypical, is the way that we're portraying them, damaging to the real kids their age? The
big things that pop up in my mind are Smallville and Twilight. But the reason that I started wondering about this and thought maybe it would be a good topic was I was watching the pilot to Young Justice. I don't know if any other episodes have come out. I haven't seen them.
Yeah, they have. But all I watched was the pilot too. Yeah.
But when I saw the pilot...
No, I think they're well into their season now.
Yeah, when I saw the pilot, they made Speedy just this ridiculously, I'm angry because I'm a teenager, and you never respect me because I'm a teenager. So it seems to be this this juxtaposition of a teenage to authority, and in this case, its authority figure is effectively the father figure, the superhero to the sidekick, and I saw that and I thought, well, first of all, we as the audience are immediately either going to look at that guy and think that well, he has to be justified because I don't want to simply hate him.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to watch this guy through the show.
Or we're going to sit here and think that, maybe there's backstory that we don't have. And that's what makes him seem angsty. Maybe he and Oliver Queen have a really stressed relationship, but Oliver Queen seems to be this little... I always see him as kind of a lighthearted guy, and I don't necessarily feel like that wasn't represented as little screen time as they got in Young Justice. Mm-hmm. So what that really seems to me is that they have this stereotype who's trying to go against the grain. And when I see that, I go, why? Why do they think that's an interesting character? Well, maybe they did think it's an interesting character because obviously he wasn't one of the main ones.
yeah, exactly.
But you see,
you get this idea that that's just how teenagers are, and that we just have this blanket. This is how these certain people are, and it's not the case.
In a way, I have this idea that it could be one of two things, or even both. One, which is the one I generally support, which is this is how they think they're trying to make characters relatable to teenagers. They think these teenagers like this type of thing. Well, obviously what you should do is you should write a character, or you should write a show about an actual person who is a teenager, and then let your show unfold. But, that's easier said than done, I suppose. But the other thing that happens in my head is that the reason why these characters are teenage stereotypes is because the people writing these shows don't remember what it was like to be a teenager, or can't think of a teenager as a human being.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Sure. Where there's maybe some truth to what they're showing, but it's too simplistic. It's overly simplified.
Yeah, it's like I'm a man writing a character who's a woman. Well, women read this and say, this is not a woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the danger that you get into is if you exemplify certain bad behavior. This is making me sound like I'm like 40, but if you're, but really, if you exemplify certain bad habits that teenagers are likely to pick up, and then you throw that in your characters. A lot of kids, if they like a character, are going to be like, I want to be like that character. And then they're likely to, try to... I've known a lot of... And I had this in high school, too. And I think this happens all the time now, also. I had a lot of friends in high school who seemed to think that either life was like television, or they were trying to make it like television. You know what I'm saying? So, they had the shows that they watched, be it... and I hate to throw Buffy in here, because I actually like a lot of how Whedon portrays teenagers, but there's still a little bit of certain things going on here and there that people would pick up on it and be like, I want to be like them. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think the difference here is the difference between effective storytelling with teenagers and poor storytelling with teenagers. I mean, the Buffy crew are proactive people trying to grow. I mean, the Spectacular Spider-Man. It's a show about a teenager who's proactive and trying to improve his station in life. He knows that he wants to be a hero. He knows that he currently has the means of being a hero.
And he has the same problems any teenager will. And he's going to make mistakes, but we don't have to, infuse him with, here are his flaws. He just has them because he's a person. He's a well-rounded human being.
Yeah. When you're writing something
and I believe Buffy had that, too.
Yeah. I think so as well. When you're writing a show or whatever about a teenager, you're effectively writing a story about a guy who has most of his life ahead of him, or a girl who has most of her life ahead of her. And when you're writing a story, when you're writing an episode of Smallville, what it seems to be is that you're trying to write a character about a guy who wants to whine and lament his state in life. And that's because that's what they think a teenager is.
Yeah, this kind of why me thing, and I think that it validates that. It validates people thinking that way. It's like oh well, if that's supposed to be an endearing quality in a character, and I already feel this way, then I should just walk around and mope and be like that, and I don't have to try to better myself. I'm okay just the way I am. How dare any adult tell me to improve myself? And I mean that's extreme, but I really think this happens.
Well, I think the issue is that they're holding this up as the ideal. I mean, it's one thing to say...
That's right.
That a character like this exists in a show. But they're saying that a character like this exists and is the hero.
That's right.
And that's not even just to say the protagonist. That's to say the guy who is the ideal for the show. Because even though he's supposed to be a growing human being, or whatever, a Kryptonian, I guess, he's not Superman yet, and they're presenting him as if he is.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, because I feel like they were kind of having their cake and eating it too in the early days of Smallville. Maybe to a point now also, where we've got, it's supposed to be the early days of Clark Kent, and so the idea is he's not that perfect, model to be upheld like he is in the comics. And that's all well and good, but then it also seems to really hold him up on a pedestal. Here's this guy, he's selfless, he goes out and he saves people, and that's all well and good, and we should be like him in that way, you know what I mean? Now, of course, it's also hard to find him entirely sympathetic because it's easy for him. He has superpowers, There's a line in somewhere in the first season, or maybe even early second season, where we're at the end of an episode, Clark asked Jonathan, what do you think I would still be? I think it was maybe even the episode where he lost his powers the first time, where Clark was like, do you think I would still, do this? Do you think I would still be a hero and save people if I didn't have superpowers? And Jonathan responds with, there's no doubt in my mind that you would. And there's every doubt in my mind. You know what I mean? Now, in that episode, he certainly does, continue to try to, be the hero even when he doesn't have powers, and that's good. But he's had powers before, so he's just doing what he's used to doing. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So all I mean is, maybe he's a person to be looked up to because he, selflessly helps people, but he doesn't handle his own problems. He ignores his problems. He stands in a corner and hopes they go away. And when he wants something, he never goes after it. And again, that's a character trait that some people certainly will have. But it's the protagonist. We're telling a story. We need to get over that. And
so
we're essentially at some point get over that.
We're essentially saying that this is problematic not just because it's a negative impression of teenagers, or a negative representation of teenagers, but it's also problematic because we're following a character who's not proactive.
Yeah, it's also just kind of bad storytelling.
And ultimately just uninteresting. And but when you watch something like, say, Buffy, who and they do have some of that angsty stuff, and and they do, it's kind of like, in my mind,
but they try to grow out of it to a degree.
I mean, really, what it's about is it's about a person who has this unique ability. She is the Slayer, and she's trying to figure out what does it mean to be a Slayer? What does a person do with the abilities that make her the Slayer? So when she's really, like for example, she has a lot of unhealthy relationships as the series goes by, and some of them are, and I would say the one with Angel's a pretty good, a pretty good example of how to do a relationship on TV. I think that's a good one. But when you watch something like Twilight, they show another unhealthy relationship and they try to idealize it.
I think so too. I think what we're really getting down on this, Vince, is not make your characters, because you could make them stereotypical the other direction too, right? You could just make them perfect. You don't want that. You also don't want characters to just have flaws for the sake of flaws. So the middle ground is people do bad things and there are consequences to those actions. When Buffy got in bad relationships, guess what? There were always consequences to those. You didn't watch season 6, I don't think, but
Not yet.
But you haven't gotten there. But the whole Buffy Spike thing, that was hugely damaging to her psyche and to all kinds of things. I mean, she in ways paid for that. But when Clark makes mistakes, there aren't enough consequences very often, and when they are, they're brushed over pretty quickly. You know what I'm saying? So if nothing else, for real teenagers watching these things, we need to at least portray reality in a way, or the reality of the story we're telling, in a way that actions have consequences. So our characters do bad things sometimes because they're human beings, but there are repercussions. They have to deal with it. If you drink and drive, you're going to go to jail. You have to have.
Or you're going to crash.
But whatever it is, there need to be real consequences, and not just slap on the wrist, you're done. There need to be real consequences to things.
When I think about when you're writing a character, be they teenage or not, they don't need flaws. What they need is problems. And
exactly. And well-rounded human beings just have flaws already. I feel like this happens a lot. Like, I feel like this is permeating storytelling even now, and it was at the early 2000s and has continued on, where we have to give our characters flaws. But if you make them real people, those are going to come. You're just going to know what they are.
Yeah, I mean, the flaws shouldn't necessarily be, this is the way I am, The flaws should be, this is how I'm dealing with this, be it right or not.
Yeah, because if a character is immediately defined simply by a flaw, it means that they can never change.
Yeah.
And that's called a static protagonist.
And
someone who never changes or never has the opportunity to do so.
What it really shows us is that teenagers are sort of fixed into this little box. They say, this is a collection of emotions and angsty ideals that teenagers have. So this is what we're going to push on them, and we're going to shove it down their throats. And, some of them are going to believe it. Some of them are going to say, yeah, this is what it is. But, of course, teenagers are people, so not everybody is as suggestive as another person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Suggestive. That's not the word I meant. But, impressionable.
Impressionable, yeah.
As another person. So there... Some people can reject that type of thing. Some people will take it in. And what it really boils down to is what we need is more Batman the Animated Series. I mean, I'm going to come down on this largely the same way that I would come down on children's TV. If you're writing TV for teenagers, then what you need is a television programming that treats them like they're intelligent thinking beings.
That's absolutely true, yeah.
And that's how we get well-rounded people, We grow out of what we were into what we're going to become.
I really think, and here's where I'm going to come down on this, I really feel like if you don't do that, because you're absolutely right, I feel like if you don't do that, what you end up with is impressionable teenagers thinking, my life is not interesting, I need to color it up with drama.
Yeah. There's a lot of people like that. Even.
Dangerous, man. It just is. There are other ways to make your life interesting. Okay, you don't have to create problems for yourself. And teenagers in TV shows have a tendency of creating problems for themselves. And yes, real people do this. Okay, it happens. That's not the issue.
Yeah. People will
the
have
issue
scrapes
is exemplifying it.
People will have scrapes with each other. It happens, and they should have it in their shows. I mean, of course, that's what drama is a problem with another character, really.
Yeah. We have to have conflict.
But creating like a character creating something in their head, and maybe I'm getting off topic here, but it seems like there's a lot of fake drama. You know what I mean? It's just
absolutely
like characters behaving the way they behave because the writers say, well, that's what this character would do, right?
Yeah.
Because he's a teenager, so he's going to have that problem.
And I wish I brought this up earlier because we're out of time, but one of the things that I think you get a lot just because of lazy writing and people thinking conflict can only come from this is characters keeping secrets from each other. Of course, that permeated Smallville. And so, your conflict comes from this person didn't tell this other person something when they finally find out bad things happen. Well, the consequences to that are always the same. Like and this is good. That's always bad. Okay, it's always played up whenever somebody does that as the other person. How dare you keep the secret from me? The problem is in a lot of these shows, and then we get into things like Gilmore Girls and stuff like that. In a lot of these shows, the very next episode, they haven't learned anything. They just do it again, and then they do it again because we can't think of anything else to write. And then you get, like you said, impressionable people. Impressionable teenagers who are people starting to live that way, going, this is the way life is. People keep secrets from each other.
It's kind of interesting to me. It seems like what a teenage drama is sort of a children's show for teenagers, teaching them a moral lesson, saying, well, this is what you shouldn't, like, these are the reasons you shouldn't do this. But when it gets to the next episode, nothing really bad's happened to anybody, because of course you can have something horrible happen to a youth. So,
unless they're a crypto freak.
Or Buffy.
Well, hey,
she sent her boyfriend out. Oh no, I can't say that on.
What do you think about this? How do you feel about how teenagers are portrayed very often in television and film, and how do you come down on it? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. And also, if there's something you'd like us to talk about in a future episode, leave that in the comments as well. And if you're ever in the Kansas City area, be sure to check out Pop Culture Comics in Overland Park, Kansas. That's our official sponsor. Thanks again for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store.
We'll see you next time. Finger up. Step 2, what did you get? Step 3, went. So you skipped the whole step. You just went.